Welcome to Life Happens, where Texans come to protect their legacy and prepare for the second half of life. Join your host, Attorney Kim Hegwood of Your Legacy Legal Care, and our weekly guest as we navigate the challenges that emerge as life happens. Now here's your host, Kim Hegwood.
Good morning and welcome to Life Happens with me, Kim Hegwood, and our very special guest today is Dr. Barbara Manousso. And good morning. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Kim.
Well, you're doing something that have a lot of clients, as we were talking earlier, have a lot of clients that seem to need this thing. And it's basically the theme of our show today is the magic of elder care mediation. So we find in my practice, I'm not sure you probably can reciprocate as far as the mediations you've done. We find in my practice that a lot of kids don't agree on how mom and dad are getting taken care of, and I always tell the clients that are sitting in my office, it's the ones that aren't here that complain the most, that aren't doing anything, but sometimes that's not necessarily the case. And so can you tell our listeners, about what is elder care mediation?
Well, thank you. It's very important to me to be able to share this. And I've been one of the leaders internationally for over 30 years when it was brand new and kind of carved out of family mediation. This is not divorce or child custody, as people often think of mediation. And elder and adult care is when the family needs to have the conversation they haven't been able to have. And again, like you just alluded to, it might be helping the senior go into a new phase of their life. It might be that the parents have already passed on, but the children aren't communicating. One of my cases, the parent was actually the translator. The children were very different in their personalities, but the parent had always translated and kept the unity together. So that's what elder and adult care mediation is.
So we find that a lot of kids can't agree on mom or dad or grandma and grandpa's care. And so how does mediation help them get through that process?
Well, one of the hallmarks of elder and adult care, and we say adult care because I've had people call and go on that their mother has been in a nursing home and X, Y, and Z. And then we find out that she's only in her 40s, that she perhaps had a stroke or something debilitating. So we don't just say elder, we add the term adult care. And it could maybe be a mentally challenged sibling also that we're talking about. But the elder is the care mediation is the opportunity for the family to have a qualified conversation where they have been nibbling with each other. They are now in the presence of a professional who's going to help them each be heard and to hear. Radical idea. And within this process, we might even bring in subject-specific people to help them also hear. So we use kind of a collaborative model sometimes where usually they only have to come to us once. Rarely do families come more than once. So it's maybe 4 or 5 hours of quality time that they make a plan and a blueprint with the help and the guidance of a mediator.
So I've always been a huge fan of mediation, and so most people are pretty much aware. I litigated early in my practice, and when I had to go to mediation with clients, I used to tell them that if you both leave feeling like you didn't get the best thing, so as long as you both leave unhappy, it was a successful mediation. But
I don't agree with that. I wouldn't agree with that. What we look for is not a consensus building process. We look for the opportunity for a win-win for the family.
Yes.
And they all have an opportunity. We'll take as much time as we need for them to all contribute their ideas and to build the blueprint to move forward. That's what's successful. And I must add, mediation is not putting people in separate rooms where the mediator runs between the rooms. That is negotiated settlement. We use real mediation skills. We're not afraid of their conflict. We're not afraid of them yelling at each other. As a good quality elder and adult care mediator, we give them that opportunity to vent. We give them that opportunity to, again, hear and be heard, not somebody forcing something that might lack some transparency for somebody in the room. We want them to feel completely 100% the solution.
And so, well, that's the way it should be.
Yes, it should be. And a lot of mediation has gotten spoiled because of that people are not doing true mediation, and it doesn't help the clients. And then I get a phone call the next morning from somebody. I said, who is your mediator? Well, X, Y, and Z. And what happened? Well, I sat in a room for 7 hours. They ran in and said, this is a great idea. You should accept it. No, that's not mediation. That's flying in the face of what people should expect from mediation. And a quality mediator in this genre especially makes sure that everybody is heard.
So, do you find that there's a lot of tension when siblings, don't live close to mom or dad or grandma, grandpa?
There's a lot of sibling when they do live close to grandma, grandpa, and all their siblings. What I find odd sometimes, and when they'll get to the mediation table, or even before they do, usually the family champion calls us, or Adult Protective Services calls us, or an attorney calls us and says, have I got a case for you? And they're all of them make my eyes go, oh, okay. If they are to the point of elder and adult care mediation, they usually are a little bit complicated and high conflict. But nice people who have gotten along and spent the last 60, 70 years enjoying Christmas with each other, all of a sudden find that Santa Claus is not in the room. And they see a pot of gold often, or they're still wrestling with their own emotional detachment if somebody has passed on, or if they can realize that the parent now is going into a new role and they're moving up. So this is emotional, and this is very hot button pushing for people, and there's a lot of tension no matter where the siblings are.
I think when you get to the point of needing elder mediation or adult care mediation, that there's usually lots of tension going on.
Yes, there is.
And so,
Yes.
and the cool thing about what you do is that you get a solution. And so,
Yes.
and I think that's huge. And so let's talk a little bit about, you've done a lot of these mediations. What are some common problems that adult children face when caring for, an aging parent that may have, dementia or some other diagnosis?
Well, there's a lot of issues. Often is where they need to move to next, like housing, so they can be safe. And a lot of children don't realize that they are legally responsible for their parents' safety. When you're a little child, your parent is responsible for your safety. When the parent gets older, the children become responsible for the safety of the parent. And we had one of our clients. She flew to see her parents and thought she had organized everything at the house, had a maid come in and somebody to check on them, make sure they had bathed and kept the house clean. She just got her suitcase home. She just got home, a 4-hour flight, got in her house. The phone rang and it was Adult Protective Services. The maid had come and seen that the parents had dementia more than the client had seen. And so she was required that if she didn't have mediation, make a plan. She was going to, Adult Protective Services had stepped in. And people don't realize this. Everybody had thought they'd done the right thing. But sometimes somebody, for some reason, one of the children don't see what's really happening. And for whatever reason, and that's why we make sure that the family is all in one space and everybody gets a chance to speak and everybody gets to be heard and to hear. That is absolutely one of the strongest things that we can do in these adult and elder mediations.
So that's perfect. And because I think too, sometimes just having that ability to vent helps immensely. And so, here's the other big thing. How do you get everybody involved? How do you get them to agree to say, hey, we need to go to mediation? So
that is tricky. That is tricky. And again, we charge for this. So this is, if somebody's being asked to spend money that they might not have or not want to spend on what they think is total nonsense. So it can be a difficult. If they're required by Adult Protective Services or an attorney or the court in some fashion, they really don't have a lot of options. But most of the time, people come to us just with a little push and shove. They haven't been legally pushed to it. And if the family champion is the person who calls us, it's usually, not always, but usually either the oldest or the youngest, not the middle child. And they'll say that there's a problem with the family. And what I find also very curious, somebody say, I'm not coming, they show up. I've never had people not show up. What I have had happen is people calling me to set up a mediation, not revealing who the other family members are. And that's a huge problem. When they wanted, we had some clients, one case, they called to set up their mediation. And she said, my sister and I would like to, etc. Fine, that's great. And so we had that conversation, and they were both going to come in. And I asked them both, are there any other siblings? No, none at all. And then just when we were setting up, like just before they were coming in, she said to me, oh, well, there's another sister, but she's not mentally capable of doing this. And I said, oh, really? I said, what does she do? So I'm thinking she's maybe in a group home or something like that. She said, oh, she's a teacher. And what they were doing, and they had also told me the mother was dead, had already died, and that they were just trying to sort out the rest. As it turned out, mom was in a assisted living down the street here, and they were trying to finagle her will. So I stepped out of that. That's not right. Most cases don't happen like that. One family member comes, they all come. One sibling might pay for another sibling or people. We try to keep it very reasonable and accessible for people. And it's usually a one-shot deal. And they realize that their agreement, their solution, is a legally binding contract. Then if they're not happy, they can take it to court as a breach of contract. But they have a blueprint. They, at that point, they've already worked out a pretty good, but just knowing that, it kind of puts a little teeth to it. And then they're happier that they have a blueprint. And the mediator has, this came from the mediation. It's not just Mary saying to John, we should do this. Now it's at the mediation, this is what we decided on. So that's how it really works nicely. And people are so grateful. I get beautiful letters later. I've had people that walk in and they won't shake my hand. They put their nose in the air like I'm taking advantage of them or something. And as they leave, they're sheepish going, this was really a good process. So.
Yeah, well, that's good. Everyone should have a job that has, you get lots of good outcomes on. A lot of good satisfaction. So if there's somebody out there that's listening to their podcast right now, can you tell them how they find you?
Yes, it's Manousso Mediation and Arbitration, and we're based out of Houston, Texas, and Newport, Rhode Island. So we've expanded more into the New England market. I've always been involved, but now we've also taken an office in the New England market, and this is not something that's just in Texas, by the way. The mediation and adult care is worldwide, and it's quite a mature market now. And it's a wonderful opportunity for families. So it's Manousso.us is our website. And we have a lot of Q&A about elder and adult care mediation. And of course, our phone number is 713-557-1010. And we always look forward to having people get to know their siblings sometimes too. That's another thing. People might know that their sibling is a CPA, but they don't know where they work, how they work. So this has been a residual benefit from elder and adult care mediation. And it's usually a one-shot deal. We try to accommodate people on the weekends or evenings so people aren't losing work or time. So it's a nice process.
Perfect. And so thank you so much for being on the show, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Kim.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Life Happens with Kim Hegwood. Be sure to tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. wherever you listen to your podcast as we navigate through the challenges that emerge as life happens. The content of this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship or constitute attorney-client privilege, legal, medical, financial, or any other professional advice.